back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden hosts Joey and Halle Berry.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 855, 60 videos, somewhere in that range, all for you, all to help you grow more of what you enjoy and want to eat. And that's and a whole lot more for free. Wow. Right. So let's talk about 6 bugs that are not your friends in your vegetable garden. There's a lot of bugs that are good, and we may touch on that one of these days, but it's more that we need to know what's bad versus what's good, because the good will take care of everything. So we're going to talk about 6 bugs here. Now, some of these we're going to try to be very descriptive, and if you want to note these down so you can go back to your favorite search engine and search what these things look like, and this may be the culprit of past problems in your garden. One is the tomato hornworm, or the corn earworm, or the cabbage worm. Those are 3 different bugs. That's just one of the 6 that we're talking about. These are the hornworm. Whenever you discover you have the hornworm, it looks up as if somebody has come in right a day or 2 before your tomatoes ripe and has ate around or devoured the whole tomato.
That's a tomato hornworm.
Right. And these are very difficult to spot. Some people are able just to walk out to the garden and find them. We have not been able to do that. They say they illuminate with a flashlight. I've been in the garden at night with a flashlight, can't find them. But what you can do here, a preventive measure, is put bird feeders in your garden, or put posts with tuna cans and fill them with bird seed. What this does, it brings in birds to feed off the bird seed. And birds have incredible eyesight. They look for insects, they eat worms, that type of thing, and they'll actually find the hornworms that are eating your tomato plants. And that works very well.
It worked for us.
And people will say, but I don't want birds in my garden because they'll peck holes in my tomatoes. Well, the reason why birds peck holes in fruits, not just tomatoes, is because they're thirsty. So if you're getting this occurring in your garden, put a bird bath up, put some device up, some kind of tub in which they can get water, and then they kind of take care of the problem. Another thing is, if you've had that problem last year, don't plant the tomatoes in the same pot this year, as well as that spot in which the tomatoes were last year. Till that soil up. Use a garden fork, use a shovel, disturb that soil, because the larvae, and I dug a larva up, and I didn't know what it was, and I should have took a picture of it last week. You disturb the level in which that larvae is buried over the winter,
right,
and messes it up.
Yeah, the larvae is buried at a certain depth, and if you mess it up, it's not going to survive.
The cornworm is whenever you pull the ear of corn, the husk back, and you see that little green worm eating the kernels. That is what the cornworm is. And the cabbage worm is that cute little green worm that devours the leaves of your cabbage plants, your brassica plants, can just destroy a plant in a matter of just a short period of probably a day or so. What are some ways in which we can get rid of these?
So, as you had mentioned, you can do for the hornworm, the trick with the birdseed.
Mm-hmm.
You can use BT, and so you can use spray or powder BT, but if it rains, you do have to reapply that every time after it rains. Or if you do have chickens, you can let the chickens loose in your garden, and they usually will find those worms and eat them.
But you got to be careful with the chickens, because sometimes they like to eat other things besides what you're wanting them to eat.
So this one says, if you have the cornworm, you can pinch the top of the ear with a rubber band to help keep them out.
Prevent it out, yeah. But also now with sweet corn, growing sweet corn in the garden, it really is a decision of the gardener. We were able to finally successfully grow sweet corn in our garden, and there's videos on the website of that. This year we have decided not to grow sweet corn because Holly can get the non-GMO organic sweet corn for $3 for a dozen ears, and there's no way in the world that I can grow it that cheaply, and I can take that space in which that corn would have grown and produce 40, 50, 60 pounds of tomatoes or other produce, beans in that same spot. Another thing in which we are not happy to see in the garden is aphids.
And aphids will...
You'll get this in your grow room, too, right. And I've got some on peppers that I've got sitting on the porch right now.
And that's happened to us a few times with the peppers.
It's in the soil.
Right. So aphids they can be anywhere from green to brown to yellow, mainly, sometimes white. And they are tiny little bugs that basically are little vampires for your plants. They suck the life out of your plants.
They suck the juice out. They don't devour the leaves or gnaw down the stem, but you will flip. They typically live under the leaf. And we have the problem indoors. We very rarely ever have had the problem outdoors. And when we did, we just let it go because ladybugs are a big enjoyer of eating aphids, and we just let it go, and within a week the aphids were gone. You can also blast them with soapy water, spray mist.
That does work. Soapy water usually does work.
But you got to be gentle because some of these plants, like these pepper seedlings we have, are gentle, and you can blow the leaves right off, and then you've got a stalk with no, it's a dead plant at that point. So aphids or something.
You could also use neem oil, but you want to make sure you get the cold pressed neem oil. So not just any old neem oil. You want to make sure it's cold pressed.
Another problem you're going to have that we have been very fortunate that not to have, and we had this brought up to us a couple of weeks ago in West Bend, is the Colorado potato beetle. This is a bug that is not your friend when it comes to growing potatoes in your garden.
So it's kind of orangish with black stripes, and it's I don't know, probably about the size of your pinky nail.
Yeah, it resembles a very oversized ladybug, I guess would be the best description of size.
And so the best way that we've heard to get rid of them is to pick them off your plants and squash them. That's all you can really do. I guess if you were to see some sort of
if you see the eggs, if you can find the eggs under the leaves, you can remove that leaf. But that's about the only way.
If it's a known problem for you, then it would be good to be proactive and look for them before they become a problem.
And again, there are chemical applications for many of these problems. But again, remember, what you spray on your plant, you are going to eat. So if you keep it clean and safe and organic, you're not ingesting chemicals. Now, because we ingest enough chemicals as it is involuntarily. So if we're going to grow our own food, we want to be as healthy as possible. Another one that is very prevalent, not so much here, there are some outbreaks of it, is the Japanese beetle. That is really big. Where I'm from in southern Illinois, you will get several weeks of just the swarm of Japanese beetles.
And those things bite.
Those will bite.
Yeah.
There are some measures. I read an article last week on the plants that they're being eaten. Use baby powder, but you have to reapply. Okay. Now, I don't know how effective that is. That came from a relatively reliable source. Also, if you can go to the store and get these pheromone traps, and you put in your yard and it attracts them. But
people feel like it attracts more.
Well, yeah, if you've got a problem,
then it's going to.
And you put this pheromone trap to attract Japanese beetles in the middle of your garden, what happens? Every Japanese beetle in the neighborhood comes to your garden for that pheromone, and in the process of going in the trap, what are they doing? They're eating more produce. And
so you put it in your neighbor's yard.
You put it in your neighbor's yard. That would probably be the best thing, especially when the neighbor's not home and they don't know what's going on. That would work. Not recommended, but you do what you want to do. But yeah, that's another thing that really can eat and devour. Down south, and it's a little bit up here, bush beans or beans, they're really heavy on. The leaves. They really devour the leaves. What else do we have, Holly?
We have the cutworm.
The cutworm.
I'm not super familiar with the cutworm, but I know it does.
I'm happy that we don't have a lot of these problems.
So it's about 1 inch long. It's kind of gray or black, and it's segmented, so it looks like, I don't know, probably like a mealworm almost, but gray or black. Yeah.
Divisions in the actual body.
Yeah. And they they can travel throughout North America, so they could show up, and you could handpick the cutworms off the plants, or you could even delay planting. I guess they kind of show up earlier in the season. Right.
Let's see, what was squash vine borer is another one. Squash moth. This is a bad bug in which the parent plant or the parent bug will actually dig a hole into the bottom of the stalk of the zucchini plant or your squash plants, and it looks like you took a little tiny drill bit and there's like the sawdust of it. What they've done is they've burrowed in there, they've laid their larva. That larva then hatches into worms, which eats the internal portions of the vine and kills the plant from the inside out. If you can catch it early and you find that hole where the sawdust is, or that burrow where that mother has...
You can pull them out.
You can slice it down, surgically open it up halfway, and you can dig these worms out. It's a very unpleasant-looking, disgusting thing, but you can get a hold of it and still get squash. You can also delay your planting, do a fall planting. Also, at the time of planting, you can cover your squash with a netting. But at the time that the squash flowers, whether it's your spaghetti squash or your zucchini squash, you want to remove that netting so the bees and pollinators can get in there to pollinate it. You can also hand pollinate it if you want to do that. One plant or one squash that doesn't have this bothered by is the butternut squash, because it has such a thick, tough stalk that it doesn't, the squash vine moth is unable to burrow into them. So the telltale signs here, and whenever you see this, it's far too late. It looks like your zucchini plant, your spaghetti squash plant, your squash plant needs water. All the leaves are very wilted. It looks like it's been in like 105 degrees for a week. It looks like it's about to die. And you water it, and the next morning it looks the same. Well, the plant's already dead. It's already too far gone. That has already, the bugs or the worms, the larva has already ate so much internal portions of that plant that it can't recover. So if you can be proactive and continue to visually look at this, and that's what we do, to look at this, and always rotate your crops as well. If you're in the Milwaukee or surrounding areas, just tune your radio to 860 AM or FM 106.5. You can also find links on our Facebook pages, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and Home Canning. Our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the radio tab at the top of the page, then click on the Listen Live button, and you'll have immediately access to our live program. Mobile devices work very well also. Go to your app store and download for free the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app. Then search WNOV 860, save it to your favorites, and you can have access to our radio show live wherever you're at in the world. Our radio program will also have podcast replay under the radio tab several days following the live broadcast. You can find all of these links in the show notes below. Our show airs 9 to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday, March through the end of October. And we want to thank our sponsors, because without them, this would not be anywhere possible. You can find all of their links under the radio tab on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.